Hi, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for joining us for our latest episode of Broker Buzz here with Tony Kottenbrock, SVP of Wholesale Lending at Newrez. Tony, thanks so much for giving us some of your time today.
Pleasure to be here with you, Brad, and it's a pleasure as always to be able to uh, talk to the mortgage broker community and our clients out there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And we're here at the end of 2025. It's been a good year for Newrez. Just want to kind of look back on some of the highlights, some of the milestones, some of the proudest moments that we've had over the last 12 months. And so when you look at 2025 as a whole, it's been a successful year for Newrez Wholesale. When you look back, what are the accomplishments that you're most proud of?
Yeah, absolutely. 2025 has been a good year for Newrez as an entire organization, but we're here to talk about wholesale, and wholesale has been a bright, one of the biggest bright spots within the organization. Just Newrez as a whole and how the company has been put together over the last several years. We've really brought a bunch of different organizations together, getting to the point of 2025 as a year of really being able to focus on the mortgage broker community, having an established foundation, a platform that we can produce more production on, and then just as a wholesale channel, getting after it and growing our production. One of the biggest bright spots, of course, in 2025 was the growth of our non-QM production at a time when purchases in general has been the largest part of what's being produced out there in the marketplace over the last couple of years. But being able to use the non-QM products to help borrowers take cash out, and we played a huge significant part of that in the broker community.
Is there a certain moment or milestone this year that symbolizes the momentum that Newrez is building in wholesale?
That's a very good question because momentum is different than that's you're building momentum to establish something that's going to be very positive in the future. And I do think we have a lot of momentum around the improvements from a technology standpoint. Now, if you ask me today where we're at, and again going back to a lot of foundations have been built over the last couple of years, and from a technology perspective, we built that foundation where, we are just at that crossroads of being able to get significantly better. And I think that's what you're going to see, from the moment that we're talking right now to finishing the year in 2025, but especially in 2026. I do think you're going to see us step up our game, not only from the ability to produce loans easier and faster via Blueprint, but just all the technology enhancements from a process perspective, to move faster for our clients, for their borrowers, and the end result, will show in more production coming our way because people will have a better experience. We've depended so much on, having an experienced, one of the best sales team, and ops teams from a human capital perspective, that now being able to finally get to the point, ready to integrate technology with our superior sales and operational team. That's what's really exciting about the momentum going into 2026.
Yeah, and so you mentioned the sales team that we have here at Newrez, and like when you think about the people that make up that team, like what qualities or values have defined the account executive culture this year? And I guess what makes a Newrez AE experience feel different from what brokers get elsewhere?
That has been our strength. And again, I want to keep, making sure we talk about, our operational team and the experience they bring to the table. From a technology perspective, you know, we can't just go out and hire somebody that doesn't have experience and that isn't, willing or able to communicate with our clients. And, putting that together from an operations perspective, working with AEs that have very stable, experienced, and good for a number of years, as we also try to bring up that next level of salesperson to that level. Experience, knowledge, training, that's very important for our success. It's just not about reaching out and making calls. We know we need to stay in front of people, but you need to bring value. Putting in a call is different from putting in a call plus bringing value, and that's our expectation of our salespeople, and that's what has made us successful up to this point. Again, the next step is integrating the technology at the end of 2025, in the first quarter of 2026 to really step up our game, and then that's whenever you'll see us competing to move up the ranks there from a ability to produce at a faster pace perspective.
You mentioned the different teams that we have here at Newrez, whether it's operations, sales, and it's like also we have an award-winning servicing team here. And can you talk a little bit about the importance of what it's like having in-house servicing here at a wholesale lender, what value that provides to mortgage brokers?
Yeah, and I will say, Brad, I don't think that in all cases that it is valued enough by the mortgage broker community, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But first, to your point, um, we have received several awards from agencies and other industry affiliations from a servicing perspective. And servicing is a tough business, by the way. You really need to be able to um, have a lot of it, for lack of a better way to put it, in order to be a successful servicer. And from that aspect, we are the third largest national servicer in the mortgage industry. And I want to make this a very solid point here that I do think that some of the pass-through competitors get a pass on the fact that they sell the majority of their originations. That takes the borrower out of the mortgage broker, the loan officer's control. Granted that, when you're a servicer, you carry the same name as the originator, but that's so much important, creates so much value. And I got my own personal story to go to here to explain why servicing is so important. And people, you will understand sort of the way the industry works, but 3 or 4 years ago now, I bought a new home, and in order to, purchase the home on the lot that I wanted, I had to use the builder's mortgage company. And, in order to get all the benefits that the builder provided, uh, along the way. And since then, since closing on that mortgage loan, my mortgage has been sold 3 times. Now, at this point, I'm a borrower and I've had to experience the sell of my mortgage 3 different times and all the issues and problems that go along with that. When you send a loan to Newrez Wholesale, our intent is to service that mortgage. And that creates a huge benefit and a lot less pain. Again, from a servicing perspective, it's a tough business. And you usually only hear about servicing when there's a problem. If people pay their mortgages on time, if there's no escrow issues along the way, then you just don't hear about it. You only hear about it if there is a mortgage problem. And we're here as a sales team to help you through any of your borrower's issues. You do not have the ability to go back to your originator if they sold that loan and get help along the way. And we're here to provide that additional benefit for you, not only as originator, but as one of the largest mortgage servicers in the industry.
I know one big change this past year was this was the first year that Newrez has been a sponsor of AIM, a gold sponsor of the Association of Independent Mortgage Experts. Why was becoming a gold sponsor with AIM an important step for Newrez, and how has it helped shape our relationship with the broker community?
Going back to the point that I made about all the work that it took, from the merger standpoint to get to the point of finally being able to sit to announce ourselves. And I think joining AIM, was a way that we could do that and show the mortgage broker community that we're here, we're ready, we care about you, we plan to be here, and be consistent for a long period of time. And this just the timing was right. I've enjoyed getting to know the leadership over at AIM. They definitely have the best interests of the mortgage broker out there. And more than anything, it was just a matter of timing. And I do think that it was able to, announce ourselves as being a force to come, or a force of nature, if you will, as we move forward to compete in the mortgage broker space. I will say that I've been very impressed. I mean, the leadership is one thing. I think AIM brings the community together from a social community perspective and engagement online. I would like to see people step up and really participate in AIM a little bit more as we move forward as well. I mean, the social media part of it is huge. It's very important, but also, supporting AIM from a LO perspective, I think is also important as we move into the future.
And you talked a little bit about earlier about like looking internally more towards Newrez, the different products we have, especially the non-QM growth. That's kind of been like a highlight of our past year. With non-QM kind of growing, everywhere in the industry, more and more home buyers, consumers, whatever you want to call them, kind of becoming more aware of non-QM being a tool for them. Um, what has been what shifts do you see in kind of how brokers are using the non-QM programs that are out there?
I think, there is a little bit of misconception. I mean, as rates come down, sure, business is going to pick up. So we would still need to see significant movement for people to at a higher rate want to give up the current mortgages, that they have on their homes. But the non-QM space, besides getting people in homes, which will continue to be important, it enables people to go in and finance or refinance their first while taking cash out and ultimately put themselves in a better financial position. And that's where I think it can still be misleading in the industry. People can compare non-QM just because it's not a conventional, it's not a government loan, and automatically have that perception that the rates are higher. And sure, it depends on a lot of characteristics, a lot of factors, whether it's credit scores, you know, debt ratios, more probably most important, loan to value that you need, but a lot of these loans are very close to that conventional price. I think more close than most borrowers or even the mortgage broker community would realize, whether it's, a smaller loan amount, whether it's a large jumbo like loan amount. People say non-QM and they immediately want to say subprime. This is not subprime lending. It's high FICO, lower LTV, maybe one-off situations where it's a good borrower, just doesn't fit the generic guidelines of your agency lending.
No, that's awesome to hear about non-QM. It seems like there's so many kind of options out there for brokers to become more aware of to kind of expand their toolkit, so to speak, gain more business opportunities. And one thing you mentioned previously was closed-end seconds here at Newrez, and obviously the closed-end seconds product line, so to speak, has seen such big enhancements this year. Higher loan amounts, AVM options, investment properties, and more. The list could go on. How have those changes improved the broker experience thus far?
Well, we still have a ways to go there, Brad. And that is a big opportunity for us moving into 2026. And, we do have big aspirations there. And, we will meet our goals. And a lot of that does evolve around becoming more streamlined on the second mortgage offerings. And I go back to say that's a strength of Newrez. Let's mention non-QM again for a second before we talk more about um, closed-end seconds. It's the fact that we securitize these ourselves. We are not a pass-through lender like you see all these non-QM companies, coming out of the woodworks, companies that show up every conference or seminar that you may not be familiar with. But we securitize our own product. We are the end investor of a lot of these originations that you see in the marketplace. That puts that that gives us the strength that a lot of other companies don't have when they're out there making a case of where you should send your not only your non-QM but all of your business to. Again, going back to the fact we're the third largest servicer in the industry. But all of that is what has put us in a position to be able to focus 2026 on second mortgages. Again, I want to go back and address, the simple, data points of, around 70% of mortgage holders out there have a 4.5% interest rate or lower. Even if rates come down and, you know, give us, to ability to gain more production just for the simple fact the market has become a little larger. That doesn't change the fact that there's going to be a lot of borrowers out there that need help and they don't want to lower their interest rate that they currently have on the books. And second mortgages is going to be an opportunity that's going to be there for, a significant period of time moving forward. And the reason the mortgage broker community should look and want to originate seconds is it keeps them in front of their client. Why give your client away and lose the opportunity to come back and help them in the future? Help them now and then help them down the road. Don't give up the ability to help that borrower and then lose your client to the bank or the credit union at some point down the road. This is a perfect opportunity to stay in front of them, help them, and then be able to come back and help them over the lifetime of their mortgage lending needs.
That's an interesting point you bring up because there's so much discussion in the industry about, who does a borrower or an end customer belong to, so to speak, using air quotes, where it's like, is it the lender? Is it the broker? And like, what kind of steps are mortgage brokers doing to proactively stay in front of their borrowers to maintain that relationship? And the answer could, or the solution could be as simple as, getting more involved in these second mortgages, closed end seconds, where it's like you're actually doing a business transaction to ensure that you're staying connected with your borrower. I think that's a really interesting kind of way of looking at it.
That's a perfect point, Brad. And it's a very emotional topic. Who owns the mortgage borrower? I will say from a servicing standpoint, you need that loan to stay on the books to get the value of the servicing valuation that is built or not built into the price, depending on how you want to look at it. And we definitely understand the fact that a mortgage originator sees that borrower as um, their opportunity now and in the future. At the same time, we want to be around for years to come to be able to service the mortgage broker community. And some of decisions that need to be made or a matter of being a responsible lender to the borrowers, a responsible lender to the mortgage broker community, and a responsible borrower to the industry in general, and to our employees. So, and I think that's where Newrez excels.
No, you make an interesting point there. And as I think more and more about like the discussion points that have been in the industry over the years about when you're talking about who owns the borrower relationship, whether it's the lender, whether it's the mortgage broker, and the different things that brokers can and should do to stay in front of and connected to their borrowers. Like one of the easiest solutions is apparently is just kind of from a transactional basis, like go get a second mortgage, like literally put yourself in front of them. And so I think you make an interesting point about the value that these closed-end seconds, provide for brokers going forward.
Yes. I mean, seconds, look, there is an opportunity there. Our average loan size is 150,000. So there's opportunities for the mortgage brokers and the loan officers to make money. They're not doing it for free. They can make money on it. And sometimes, they the mortgage LO will assume that it's not a valuable product for them. But what they're not putting enough value on is the fact that it does keep them in front of their borrower and it provides a service for their borrower to make that borrower a lifelong opportunity for them. And I think that is what is missed in the broker community. And they like sometimes to refer second mortgages off to their local credit union and their bank. And that is one way that you can go about it, and I'm sure that it's set up to where, I will refer seconds and please refer, first mortgages that you're not able to do with the bank back to us. But, the mortgage banks and credit unions get more aggressive from time to time on first, and that opportunity to refer the client back might not be there. So why not stay in front of them? Why not provide the second mortgage yourself? And again, it's an opportunity to make sure you're keeping that client over a life. And our plan for 2026 is to help do that and to make it easier. And we're going to continue to evolve the product. We've already added AVM. We've increased our loan size on the use of AVM. We made a clarity and the easy, to view HPML and QM points and fees in our system. The next step is being able to integrate or a simpler title product in for seconds, as well as taking a lot of the processing needs, away from the broker, where they can basically upload a loan and then close the loan, take care of their borrower, and move forward. We're going to do all that with technology, and we've got a huge technology goal and opportunity as we move towards really towards the end of the first quarter. I think you're going to see some big things from us um, that will enable loan officers to take care of their clients and get the money to their clients at a much faster pace. And we're very excited about that.
That's awesome. So obviously there's a lot going on for mortgage brokers working with Newrez right now, as well as, into the future. And so kind of wrapping up this best of and looking ahead episode of the Broker Buzz series, is there one thing that in particular that you want brokers to really take away from Newrez's approach as we head into 2026?
Brad, I'm very excited about, again, we've had a huge roadmap for 2025, but I really think 2026 is where we're going to be able to take advantage of all of our hard work in 2025, from a technology perspective, and that includes the ease of submitting the loan to us through Blueprint. I think you're going to see, not only in 2026, but as we finish out 2025, a huge number of improvements to our Blueprint system, the interaction of how our clients will be able to use Blueprint, and then especially as we move into the first quarter in 2026, we put a lot of hard work into Blueprint, and that is all going to pay off for us. As we're able to integrate technology of automation on the process and how that's going to be integrated into Blueprint. I'm very excited as I hope that the mortgage broker community can feel that excitement in where we're going to be finishing up 2025 and moving into 2026 with our offerings out there on being able to support the mortgage broker community, in their loan production.
Awesome. No, that's awesome to hear. And like there's so much to be excited about working with Newrez now and looking ahead to the future. And so looking forward to seeing all those things come to fruition for us and to our mortgage broker community. Thanks for working with us, and thank you for joining us on this episode of Broker Buzz. And thank you, Tony, for joining us. And again, look forward to all of you kind of being with us for the next episode of Broker Buzz here coming soon, and looking forward to working with all of you as we move forward.